In November 1936, Agnes Ayres received an unexpected call from Paramount, 15 years after her last significant film. The studio wanted her back, reminiscent of a scene from Sunset Boulevard. Unlike Norma Desmond's situation, there was no ambiguity in the offer. She was to play a minor role in Souls at Sea. After years of hardship and isolation, this was the first step she had longed for: a return to the spotlight. On set, she found comfort in the support of those who remembered her past success. She even felt the presence of Rudolph Valentino, her former co-star from the Sheik, in spirit. She felt admired, loved, and, most importantly, remembered. It was a remarkable moment, but ultimately, it would turn out to be just that one fleeting moment. Soon after, she would pass away. Richard Griffith, in his book The Movie Stars, described Agnes's attempts to regain her fame as a grim, relentless, and ultimately futile struggle for a comeback. This is the story of Agnes Ayres, the glamorous and iconic superstar who is now nearly forgotten. Agnes Ayres Henkel was born on April 4, 1892, in Carbondale, Illinois. She had a brother, Solon William, born in December 1888. It is unclear whether her father, Solon Augustus Henkel, died during her childhood or if her parents separated, but he was largely absent during that time. By 1900, her mother, Emma Slack Henkel, had remarried Franklin Rendleman, a farmer, and the family moved to Chicago. Although Agnes aspired to study law as a teenager, by 1910, at the age of 18, she was working as a bookkeeper with no specific dreams of acting. Agnes's film career began in the winter of 1914 at Chicago's S&A Film Manufacturing Company after a friend suggested she visit the studio. She was noticed and asked if she would like to be an extra. Her first role was a minor one in a crowd scene of a film featuring Francis X. Bushman and Beverly Bain. Encouraged to continue, she soon shared a dressing room with Gloria Swanson, both working as extras. In 1915, she even appeared in an early Charlie Chaplin film. Agnes later reflected on her early experiences at SNA, recalling the various roles she played. In the morning, I might start as a schoolgirl, with my hair down and in curls. By 11:00, I would be a suffragette, and at 2:00, I'd be an enthusiastic co-ed cheering at a football game. In the late afternoon, I would change into formal attire for a reception. During every spare moment, we experimented with makeup, waiting for a chance at real parts. It was the best experience imaginable, days filled with fun, underpinned by the seriousness of our future careers. Agnes saved some money from her weekly $35 salary at SNA. By the winter of 1916, she had enough to take her and her mother to New York, where there were better opportunities for actresses. Without any connections in the city, finding work was difficult. Just as they were thinking of returning to Chicago, director Frank Powell cast Agnes in a Marjorie Rambeau film, The Dazzling Miss Davison. She performed well and became a familiar face in Rambeau's films, which included The Mirror, The Debt, and Motherhood, all released in 1917. As her acting career began to flourish, Agnes married Frank Schuker, an army captain. This marriage seemed to promise financial stability for her and her mother, while she pursued her film career. However, their relationship would be tested by her sudden rise to fame. During this period, actress Alice Joyce noticed Agnes's resemblance to her and offered her the role of her sister in Richard the Brazen, a Vitagraph production. This was the breakthrough she needed. Agnes worked with Vitagraph until late 1919, starring in many short films based on the stories of renowned author O. Henry. This experience led to her being nicknamed the O. Henry Girl at the studio, marking a significant period in her career. She later expressed her fondness for these films, saying, "I have never really enjoyed anything more than those pictures. I loved studying the heroines in the stories and bringing each unique character to life on screen at Vitagraph." Most of her roles were virtuous heroines, but she also occasionally portrayed vamps. "I was very mean too," she recalled. "While playing those roles, I would think, I hate her, and I'll do anything to make her unhappy. I always aim to fully embody my characters, as I found that makeup and costumes could really alter my personality. After leaving Vitagraph, Agnes aimed for Hollywood, where she quickly caught the eye of producer Jesse L. Lasky. Lasky had established his own production company, the Jesse L. Lasky Feature Play Company, in 1913, with partners including director Cecil B. DeMille and actor Oscar C. Apfel. In 1914, the company produced Hollywood's first feature film, The Squaw Man, directed by DeMille. They later partnered with W.W. Hodgkinson, a cinema owner who founded Paramount Pictures Corporation, to distribute their films across the nation, marking a historic deal in Hollywood. Following a series of successful films, Lasky merged his company with Paramount and rival Adolph Zukor's company to create Famous Players Lasky. They bought out Hodgkinson, gaining control of the entire cinema production and distribution chain, with Lasky as vice president overseeing production. In 1919, Famous Players Lasky, commonly known as Paramount, was constructing a large new studio in Astoria, New York, now known as Kaufman Astoria Studios. The company was preparing for an increase in film output and quality, necessitating fresh talent. Impressed by Agnes's performances and her on-screen beauty, Lasky brought her to Los Angeles and cast her in Held by the Enemy, a 1920 Civil War melodrama. In the film, she played a Southern belle whose husband, thought to be dead, returns after she reconnects with a former lover, now a Union Army officer. Although the film is lost, Agnes's performance received acclaim, with newspaper Variety praising her. Agnes did a performance that was truly great. She looked wonderfully well and carried the role to perfection. Lasky signed Agnes to a contract with Paramount and committed to advancing her career. They began a long-term affair, during which he provided her with top scripts and paired her with leading directors and actors. Shortly after arriving in Hollywood, Agnes shared her aspiration to succeed on stage, stating, "I had an offer to go into musical comedy and a play just before coming west, but I turned it down because I want to achieve my screen ambitions first. I feel like I have the chance to do that now." Given Lasky's influence and the opportunities it created, it would have been unwise for her to return to New York for lesser roles. This relationship significantly benefited her career. By the end of that year, Agnes had secured leading roles in The Furnace, directed by William Desmond Taylor, and Go and Get It, directed by Marshall Nealon. During this time, Agnes addressed personal issues by starting divorce proceedings against Frank Schuker for failing to provide financial support. In court, she introduced herself as Agnes Schuker, omitting her screen name Agnes Henkel. Her mother testified that she had been financially supporting Agnes for over a year. The judge initially granted the divorce due to non-support, but later reversed the decision when it was revealed that Agnes was a well-paid movie star. Ultimately, the court accepted desertion as a valid reason for divorce, and Agnes, now correctly identifying herself as Agnes Henkel, successfully finalized the divorce. Back in Hollywood, Agnes's outstanding performance in the 1921 film Forbidden Fruit solidified her leading role at Paramount. Directed by Cecil B. DeMille, she played a seamstress who pretends to be a society lady. We are fortunate that this film is still available in full, featuring a lavish Cinderella flashback that was impressive for its time. Newspapers Variety praised her performance, stating that Agnes Henkel, a young woman who had made remarkable progress since leaving Vitagraph, deserved the main accolades and wore them well. She's a beautiful girl and portrays a complex character excellently. In 1921, Agnes starred alongside the charming yet tragic Wallace Reid in 3 films: The Love Special, a Western railroad drama, Too Much Speed, and The Affairs of Anatole. In the latter film, directed by DeMille, Reid saves Agnes's character from suicide after her husband accuses her of embezzling church funds. In the summer of 1921, Agnes began filming her most famous movie, The Sheik. She played Lady Diana Mayo, a determined English blonde. Rudolph Valentino portrayed Sheik Ahmed, who stalks, abducts, and eventually seduces her in his tent in the desert. Lady Diana confronts him to clarify his intentions. He looks at her with that signature Valentino gaze, the one that captivated many, and smirks, saying, "Are you not woman enough to know?" According to Picture Play, Valentino appeared too young for his role and Agnes Ayres received better reviews. We preferred Agnes Ayres as the headstrong beauty who recoils from his advances, although we must admit she didn't have much to recoil from. Conversely, newspaper Variety praised Valentino as the highlight of the film, but gave Agnes a mediocre review, stating, "Agnes Ayres looks too matronly to add any excitement to her situation. She has shown herself capable of much better performances." Despite mixed reviews, George Melford's film was a tremendous success. Its appeal was partly due to the popularity of the novel and its thrilling Orientalist themes, which, while now considered outdated, were very exciting to early 1920s African-American housewives. The novel by Edith Maud Hull had sparked controversy upon its release for depicting sexual violence between the main characters, something only alluded to in the film. Critics lamented that the movie was significantly toned down by overzealous censors. Melford Riley commented, "We have handled the explicit scenes in the Sheik so delicately that I think the censors will be the only disappointment." The film became a massive hit, breaking attendance records worldwide. Jesse L. Lasky celebrated its success by declaring the last week of November 1921 as Sheik Week, screening the film in 250 theaters across the U.S. on its national release day. The film had a 6-month run in Sydney, Australia, and an impressive 42 weeks in a single French theater. It was also the first of Valentino's films to be shown in Italy. In its first year, The Sheik grossed over $1 million in ticket sales, a significant return on its production cost of less than $200,000. The film played a crucial role in establishing Valentino as one of the first major male sex symbols in cinema and propelled him to international fame. Agnes was prominently featured on the poster for The Sheik and was considered the biggest star at that time. Valentino was on his way to becoming the most sought-after man in the world. Agnes's career was also progressing positively. Her next film, The Lane That Had No Turning, cast her as a French opera singer married to a hunchback. However, Variety's review of her performance was lukewarm, similar to their reception of her in The Sheik. In that film, she was overshadowed by Valentino, while in her latest project, the spotlight shifted to Theodore Kozlov, who played her deformed husband. In the spring of 1922, while filming Borderland, Agnes and her co-star Milton Sills were set to perform a skit titled The Dumbbell Wives at the first annual Hollywood Follies, a musical comedy event. They had rehearsed together, but on the night of the performance, Agnes panicked and backed out, claiming she hadn't practiced enough. In her haste, she fled the theater just before they were to go on stage. Milton Sills, who was prepared for his role, couldn't perform without her. Marin Fairfax, the event's chairperson, was furious and wrote a letter to Agnes expressing her anger. She stated, "I personally took her backstage for her entrance, and I didn't realize until after the show that she had left just as my back was turned, which prevented your appearance. I am truly indignant that this happened and that we lost the value you would have added to the act. It seems outrageous after you dedicated so much of your time to be with us that such a thing could occur." In June, filming began on Clarence, her last movie with Wallace Reed, who was now seriously ill. Agnes was shocked by his declining health. During their fourth film together, she had secretly fallen in love with him. He suffered multiple collapses on set and was sent home to recover. Agnes visited him at his Sunset Boulevard home, spending hours by his bedside. She expressed her love for him, saying she couldn't live without him, which initially amused his wife, Dorothy Reed. However, Wallace soon grew tired of her visits, prompting Dorothy to ask Agnes to stop. Despite this, Agnes continued to visit, driving Dorothy to desperation. In a dramatic moment, Dorothy threatened to throw acid in Agnes's face if she came back. This threat worked, and Agnes did not return. Despite her emotional struggles and occasional dramatic outbursts, Jessie L. Lasky, a key figure in her career, continued to provide her with excellent projects. In The Ordeal, a high society drama, she wore a variety of stunning gowns. She then played an outcast in The Ten Commandments, her third film directed by Cecil B. DeMille. In Racing Hearts, she bought a race car and won a race to promote the film. Paramount circulated a story that Agnes was arrested twice for speeding during the shoot. Interestingly, she spent a day on set rehearsing a scene for Racing Hearts, only to be pulled over by the police that evening after reports of her driving exploits had leaked. Agnes starred in the 1923 film The Heart Raider, where she played a character known for her love of speed. While Variety praised her as a rare, attractive, athletic girl who is widely liked, Harrison's reports criticized her casting, claiming she was too old for the role. The character was meant to be wild and reckless, causing her father to pay for damages due to her speed obsession. This role required someone much younger than Agnes, making it hard to believe she could fit the part. By 1924, Agnes had delivered some of her best performances. Harrison's reports described The Story Without a Name as a romantic movie, and The Guilty One as one of the most gripping murder mysteries produced by famous players Lasky. However, none of these films matched the success of The Sheik, and Agnes was frustrated by the lack of progress in her career. It had been 3 years since her breakout role, and she was eager for another major film. Over time, she became disillusioned with her image as just a mistress at Paramount and realized that Lasky would not leave his wife for her, despite his unhappy marriage. In October 1923, at a gathering at her friend Kathleen Williams' home, Agnes met a charming young Mexican named Manuel Reachi, who worked at the Mexican Consulate General in San Francisco. Their romance blossomed quickly, and by August 1924, they announced their engagement. For a month after the announcement, Agnes denied that they were already married. However, in September 1924, she disclosed to journalists that they had wed in Mexico the previous July. She chose not to explain why they kept the marriage secret, simply stating, "We just didn't want it known, that's all." She mentioned plans for a honeymoon in Europe after finishing filming Worldly Goods. That autumn, Agnes completed Tomorrow's Love, marking the end of her 5-year contract with Paramount. Although her time with Lasky and Paramount had made her a star, she realized she needed to seek new opportunities that would showcase her talent. She signed with Producers Distributing Corporation, PDC, for 3 films at $110,000 each. Her first project with PDC was followed by The Awful Truth, where a series of misunderstandings between the flirtatious Agnes and her husband, played by Warner Baxter, lead them to divorce court. However, she later devises a plan to win him back. The New York Times praised Agnes as serenely delightful in this role, noting that she was perfectly suited for it, and no one could do it better. Both films received positive reviews, but did not achieve the success she hoped for. A silver lining was her friendship with co-star Hedda Hopper, which lasted a lifetime. During the summer of 1925, between films, Agnes invited a reporter from the Los Angeles Times to her home on Martel Avenue to discuss her marriage and career. "It feels good to be home," she said. "I'm usually off to the studio early and back late. Now I finally have some time to tend to my roses and spend time with my pets," which included a parrot, a German police dog, a cat named Tino after Rudolph Valentino, and some chickens. After her long tenure at Paramount, Agnes sought less glamorous roles that would help her establish her individuality beyond her beauty. She also became frustrated with PDC for placing her in mediocre films. Consequently, she filed a lawsuit against PDC for $43,000, claiming they had breached their agreement. In August, she increased the lawsuit amount to $93,000. Agnes's case involved Cecil B. DeMille, a partner at PDC, who she claimed had promised her better roles if she signed with the company. She argued that her absence from films had negatively impacted her public image. Additionally, Agnes was frustrated that in the promotion for Three Faces East, a film she never made, DeMille had listed her alongside a lesser-known actor, which went against her contract that guaranteed her star billing in all projects. In response, PDC argued that Agnes's weight gain, which they said violated her contract, was the reason she hadn't been cast in more leading roles. Agnes strongly denied this claim and prepared for a legal fight, presenting photographic evidence to show she had not gained weight since her role in The Sheik. However, the studio may not have been aware that she was pregnant at the time. Just 2 days after she filed her amended lawsuit, news broke that Nora Desmond from Hawaii had divorced her husband for desertion. This news shocked Agnes. Nora claimed she was still married to Manuel Ricci when he married Agnes. Manuel expressed confusion to reporters, insisting he had never been to Hawaii, had never been married before Agnes, and did not know Nora Desmond. Ultimately, Nora's claims led to no consequences. In February 1926, during a court deposition, Cecil B. DeMille stated that he had tried to gently discuss Agnes's weight issue without insulting her. "I did not say," he insisted, "Lady, you are fat." When asked why Agnes had not appeared in more films, DeMille mentioned that exhibitors were hesitant to take her on because they believed she had lost her appeal. The court asked, "Did you talk to her about her weight the last time you saw her?" DeMille replied, "We discussed questions quite frankly, but whether it was because she was fat or not, I don't remember." When asked if he noticed any changes in her appearance during their meetings, DeMille said, "She has always seemed very charming to me." Agnes and her husband defended themselves against the accusations. Manuel told reporters, "We have authorized statements from Miss Agnes's doctors, showing that she has not gained a single pound in the last 4 years, along with certified photographs to support these claims." Agnes's lawyer, Gunther R. Ling, dismissed the weight allegations as a tactic to undermine Agnes for standing up for her rights. Since when has a beanpole become Mr. DeMille's standard of beauty? Everyone knows he prefers them curvy, like Caesar. While the legal battle continued, Agnes gave birth to a daughter, Maria Ayres, on March 26, 1926, with Pola Negri and Rudolph Valentino as godparents. In May 1926, the Producers Distributing Corporation settled the lawsuit out of court in Agnes's favor, stating there was no animosity towards her and expressing hope to work with her again in the future. With this challenging period behind her, Agnes hoped to revive her career. She dreamed of starring alongside her dear friend Valentino once more, and fortunately, that opportunity was on the horizon. Later in May, it was announced that Agnes would return to the screen in The Son of the Sheik, the sequel to The Sheik. She would reprise her role as Diana, but it would not be a leading role. Valentino would play both the father and the son from the relationship between Diana and the Sheik, while Vilma Banky would receive top billing alongside Valentino, not Agnes. Banky played a local dancing girl whom Ahmed falls in love with, while Agnes was relegated to the supporting role of Ahmed's mother. The Son of the Sheik premiered in July 1926 to enthusiastic audiences. Valentino promoted the film with a national tour, and during its debut at the Strand Theatre in Brooklyn, he praised Agnes for taking a smaller role and for her commitment to her newborn daughter. This appearance would be Valentino's last. Shortly after, he died from a ruptured gastric ulcer and peritonitis in New York at the age of 31. Agnes, along with many fans, mourned his loss deeply. She said, "His death affects me doubly because our careers were so closely linked in the struggle for success, and he was a loyal friend." Following Valentino's death, Agnes's marriage to Manuel Ricci began to fall apart. Manuel left their home on Martel Avenue, leading Agnes to file for divorce on the grounds of desertion and abuse. In court, she described her husband's harsh behavior, detailing instances of physical aggression that left her visibly shaken and suffering from nervous chills due to fear. She presented evidence of his hands on her throat and testified that he had abandoned her 5 times since their marriage, including a trip to Europe without her. He would fly into terrible rages over trivial matters, Agnes explained. "I never understood why he was so upset." The divorce was finalized in June 1927, with the court arranging a property settlement that prevented future claims. Manuel agreed that their daughter would live with Agnes, who would take on the responsibility of raising her. Agnes told Photoplay, "I don't regret marrying because it gave me my daughter, and I might marry again because I love children. But my next husband will be an American. Men are passionate lovers but poor husbands." Although she was free from an abusive marriage, Agnes was now focused on being a single mother. Finding acting jobs that allowed her enough time with her daughter was challenging, so she began investing her earnings in real estate to secure a stable financial future for them. She became a successful investor, building a small property empire. However, she felt unfulfilled. Nearly 7 years after the Sheik, she had yet to land a role that matched her potential. She was cast alongside comedian Stan Laurel in the slapstick short Eve's Love Letters, which was far from the significant role she had hoped for. In 1928, Agnes participated in another short film and appeared in several quickie films with speaking parts. From December 1928 to November 23, 1929, she performed as a gypsy dancer in the New York stage production Whoopee. It seemed that the breakthrough she needed was not coming. Her star was fading, opportunities were limited, and she was starting to age. Her last notable film role was as a guest at a dinner party in The Donovan Affair in 1929, one of the early talking films directed by Frank Capra. Dorothy Riviere, who played Agnes's stepdaughter in the film, initially found her to be distant and somewhat unfriendly. Riviere recalled that Agnes appeared cool and aloof. She suspected Agnes was romantically involved with the sound technician, believing she had sabotaged Riviere's voice test for the film to make her voice sound unnaturally high. Frank Capra and I were almost in a panic until we learned it was all in good fun," Riviere said. "Surprisingly, we became friends later during filming. I started complimenting her on her performance in The Sheik with Valentino. Soon, she was inviting me to lunch, and our friendship grew." Variety's review noted that while our voices were acceptable, Agnes appeared to be gaining weight again, which became a central focus of her performance. After the Donovan affair, Agnes's life began to fall apart. Although her movie career had stalled, she still had financial security. However, in 1929, the Wall Street crash devastated her finances, leaving her broke and in significant debt. By late 1929 or early 1930, Agnes began a relationship with director Louis Milestone, who was working on All Quiet on the Western Front. In early April, Luella Parsons reported in her column that Milestone was trying to win Agnes over, and it seemed he had succeeded. They planned to discuss wedding arrangements in June. An unsigned draft letter in Milestone's papers at the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences Library provides details about their intermittent relationship. This letter, likely written by someone close to Milestone, aimed to clarify his feelings for Agnes at his request. It suggested that Milestone wanted to offer her some stability after her financial troubles, but he seemed uncertain about his romantic feelings. In contrast, Agnes appeared to be emotionally invested. Milestone's confidant described Agnes's situation. "The big house is rented out for $250 a month, and everyone has moved to a house on Orange Grove Avenue. Last week she got a telegram asking if she would accept a stage role in New York. She asked for my advice, and I told her to make her own decision since she is earning her living, but to ensure she received an advance from the organizers." After a series of telegrams, they sent her an advance, which she left with her mother to help support herself and her child. She now earns about $350 a month, which is a decent income and could increase if she continues to work. "We have done everything we can for her, and she is content with her situation." The insider warned Milestone not to complicate matters further with Agnes, who was emotionally vulnerable. He wrote, "For the love of God, let sleeping dogs lie. Avoid any contact with her. Every time this issue comes up, it becomes harder to resolve. Having Misha visit her and talk about romance only complicates things for me. If you truly want her, pursue her. But if you're not interested in marriage, stay away and don't communicate with her. If you do reach out and then try to back off, it will cost you a lot in money, time, and trouble. Before the letter was sent, Agnes called, upset. The acquaintance added to the letter. Chaos erupted again. Someone told Agnes about an interview you gave in New York where you said, "I never intended to marry. I was never engaged and have no plans for that in the future. Whatever you've heard is just gossip." She was furious on the phone, and I assured her I'd meet her at noon. By 4:00 p.m., I had calmed her down, and she agreed to ignore the rumors. I warned her that I would stop managing her affairs if she didn't calm down, as I had successfully stabilized her finances so far. I advised her to ignore the rumors, as they only upset her more. During her time in New York, Agnes was preparing for her role in the upcoming play Jungle Love, alongside Nan Bu and Herbert Rawlinson. The New York Times reported that the play was set to debut in Atlantic City on June 9th before heading to Broadway, but it ultimately never made it to New York. In April 1931, Luella Parsons mentioned in her column that Agnes was set to return to film in Brian Foy's debut feature Halfway to Hell. However, that film also did not materialize. In October, Agnes returned to the stage, performing alongside Victor Jory in On the Spot at the Westchester Theater in Mount Vernon, New York. By December, she was performing with Lou Tellin and Cortez on the Philadelphia stage. By May 1933, Agnes was in Syracuse, New York, making personal appearances and discussing the film industry. She expressed her preference for silent films over talkies, accused certain studios of undermining star salaries by sabotaging their box office appeal, and noted that audiences often forget older actors. She also declared that there would never be another Valentino. Towards the end of 1933, Agnes participated in a Hollywood review alongside Baby Kane, James Hall, and the Rose Sisters. Reflecting on her past, she described Cecil B. DeMille as a man of great charm and a true gentleman. Regarding her role in The Sheik, she recalled being a young actress eager to succeed, and insisted that no one could replace Valentino, not even Clark Gable or George Raft. She expressed a desire to reprise her role as Diana in The Sheik, believing it would still resonate with audiences today. In October 1934, while demonstrating beauty care at a salon in New York, Agnes talked about her efforts to regain her Hollywood success. She stated, "Honestly, I haven't grown bitter or disillusioned, but I know my old fans still want to see me and talk about me. It's not the public's fault that someone like me isn't given a chance when they will invest $2 million in an untrained girl instead of signing someone with a past following. You can't help but wonder why." In January 1935, while Agnes struggled to find work, her brother Solon was admitted to a psychiatric ward in Los Angeles after threatening Cecil B. DeMille, whom he blamed for ruining Agnes's career. Their mother Emma informed reporters that Solon was suffering from shell shock due to his service in World War I. During the spring and summer of 1935, Agnes formed an all-female dance orchestra and toured the East and Midwest. The group, called Agnes Ayres and her Hollywood Debs, received an invitation to perform in Europe, but Agnes chose to remain in the U.S. to reconnect with her old fans. The constant travel for one-night shows began to take a toll on her physical and emotional health. By 1936, facing the risk of a nervous breakdown, Agnes returned to Hollywood. She was exhausted, having endured 15 years of an abusive marriage, emotional struggles, family issues, single motherhood, and the sudden loss of her financial security. Agnes believed she might still have enough strength for one last chance to see her name in lights across movie theaters. In February of that year, she received a call from Paramount announcing her return to the film industry with a minor role in Small Town Girl. The cast included Robert Taylor, Janet Gaynor, and James Stewart. Although it stung a bit that Gaynor had successfully transitioned to talkies while Agnes had not, especially since Gaynor was 14 years younger, Gaynor's star was also fading, which allowed her to be loaned out by Fox to MGM. Fox hoped that a film with Taylor, the hottest star in Hollywood at the time, would boost Gaynor's career upon her return, and Agnes likely hoped some of that success would come her way as well. In reality, Agnes's role as Catherine was so minor that she wasn't even credited. While the film was reasonably successful, it did not spark the revival she had hoped for. Determined to avoid fading into obscurity, Agnes collaborated with other former film stars to support each other in maintaining their careers. They hosted their first annual close-up show in August, overseen by J. Stuart Blackton, a former head at Vitagraph. Leon Janey, Leo White, and Bert Hughes served as MCs. Agnes, along with William Farnham, Lona Belmore, Morris Costello, Bryant Washburn, Creighton Hale, Florence Turner, and Alice Calhoun, were appointed as officers of the event. Despite her hard work, Agnes only landed minor roles in films released in 1937, including Morning Judge, Souls at Sea, Midnight Taxi, and Maid of Salem. Still, she remained hopeful about her future in the film industry. "I'm still young," she told the Los Angeles Times. "I've learned a lot, and I believe I'm a better actress now. Most importantly, I have my feet on the ground, which is rare in this town, and I see no reason why I can't make it to the top again." Agnes also wanted her 10-year-old daughter, Maria, to have the chance to act. "Maria has dreamed of being a movie star since she could talk, so I'm going to give her that opportunity." Agnes secured a small role for Maria in Maid of Salem. To support her family, Agnes opened a small real estate office and began selling properties. She stayed in the public eye with the 1938 re-releases of The Sheik and The Son of the Sheik. In June, it was announced that Agnes and Rudolph Valentino's first wife would embark on a 20-week tour for public appearances with the Sheik. However, the demands of the tour became too much for Agnes, who was already struggling. In October 1938, she suffered a nervous breakdown. After several months of recovery, she reflected on her journey to regain her fame. "It cost me $500,000 to learn the value of a nickel, but I wouldn't trade that experience for all the money in the world. Making a comeback has been incredibly difficult, but I've done it before, and I'm confident I can do it again." In November 1939, Agnes gave custody of Maria to her ex-husband, Manuel. "I've been unwell for most of the past year, and I think it's best for my daughter to stay with her father until I recover," Agnes told a local domestic relations court commissioner. Maria moved to Mexico City to be with her father. On Christmas Eve 1940, Agnes suffered a cerebral hemorrhage at home and was rushed to St. Vincent's Hospital. She passed away on Christmas Day without regaining consciousness. A few days later, a simple service was held at Pierce Brothers Chapel, where a soloist sang Agnes's favorite song from the Sheik, Kashmir Song, also known as Pale Hands I Love. Her remains were placed in a mausoleum niche at Hollywood Memorial Park, near Paramount Studios, where she had once been a leading star nearly 2 decades earlier. Hopper dedicated a column to her late friend, stating, "There will be many emotional tributes to Agnes Ayres, who died on Christmas Day, at the age of 42. Years ago, when I worked with Agnes, she was at the height of her career, comparable to the fame of Lana Turner, Ann Sheridan, and Jean Harlow. She had everything a woman could want, but as she often said, it all came too fast, and she didn't have the training to handle the trust and responsibility that came with such success." Hopper remarked, "Agnes was genuinely kind-hearted, and her death should serve as a significant lesson to today's stars. If it does, perhaps many of them will take a moment to pause, reflect, and listen." Unlike Norma Desmond, Agnes Ayres faced the harsh realities of financial struggles and motherhood, along with the emotional toll of failing to return to the big screen, where she felt she belonged. The challenges of her later life ultimately led to her early death, and even today, while The Sheik is celebrated as a masterpiece of the silent era, she has faded further into obscurity. Her legacy has been overshadowed by her close friend Valentino, but her contributions to the film's success were equal to his.